The holidays are upon us, so that can mean only one thing. It's time for the Dr. Durant Sanctum Holiday Special. There's nothing we like better here at the Sanctum than sneaking down to the TV room after midnight when the rest of the house is asleep and popping in a holiday favorite. So that's why this week we'll be recommending our Sanctum favorite holiday movies. Now, these aren't your Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer or your Frosty the Snowman or your Scrooge or Christmas Carols or Mr. Magoo's, although those are great films in their own right. These are a little different, a little offbeat, a little more fun, but they'll put you in the holiday spirit just the same. And we enjoy them quite a bit. We'd like to recommend them, and we hope that you enjoy them too. So let's get started with our Sanctum Holiday Favorites. First up, Blast of Silence from the Criterion Collection. Blast of Silence is a hard-boiled, noir crime thriller that takes place in New York City. The plot revolves around a hitman who travels from Cleveland to New York to perform a hit during the Christmas season. And while he's waiting for a certain piece of equipment to perform said hit, he has some down time to kill, so he wanders around the city. It's got a very documentary cinema verite style to it, and they shot it on location in New York City during Christmas time. So you've got all these great shots of window displays and Christmas decorations and just all the hustle and bustle and people wandering around the city during Christmas time in New York. It's a real time capsule of that era, and it's very cool. But it's also got a very melancholy feel to it. You know, that melancholy feel you have around the holidays, especially when you're alone or don't feel a part of anything. The main character is the director and writer of the film, Alan Barron. The character, like all noir characters, is his psyche is shattered. He's dark, he's brooding, he had a horrible upbringing, he doesn't like being back in the city. You've got this great narration from Lionel Stander throughout the whole thing that sort of explains the inner thoughts of this character. And then we go into actual scenes with the characters talking to each other. At one point, he runs into an old flame, and his story just starts to spiral downward from there. You think there might be some hope, but in these types of movies, there's no hope for characters like these. And so I urge you to check it out. It's a great Christmas movie. I try and watch it every year at Christmas when I can. It's got great shots of New York City at Christmas time. It's a real melancholy tale. It's got a real downer of an ending. I know that's not a typical Christmas movie, but that's not what we're going to be looking at here tonight anyways. Check it out. Blast of Silence. All right, I know you guys are looking at this and saying, what does this have to do with Christmas? But this makes a great double bill with Blast of Silence. It's Salesman by the Maisel brothers, also from the Criterion Collection. The film deals with Bible Salesman from the Boston area. And there's some great shots at the beginning of the Boston area during the winter time and Christmas. And it's just this story of these guys, similar to the character in Blast of Silence, just wandering around these areas, waiting to get this horrible job that they do done, and spinning their wheels and killing time in the meantime. There's lots of of scenes of them in hotel rooms discussing what they do. There's lots of scenes with them with clients and at seminars learning how to be better salesmen. I mean, it's a great, I don't know what you want, it's a cool Christmas movie to fit in, I think, with Blast of Science. I think they make a great double bill together. It's not 100% Christmas. There's some great Christmas shots in there, but it, I recommend it. Pair it together with Blast of Silence, and you're going to have a fun double feature. I'd like to report a murder. Oh, yeah? Who was murdered? I was. Next up, the neo-noir thriller D.O.A. This is a really underappreciated little movie, and I first saw it back in 1988 upon its initial release, surprisingly enough, over Christmas vacation. And I really enjoy this movie, and I find myself going back to it again over the years, especially at Christmas time. The story takes place over the Christmas period, so it makes a great Christmas film, because there's lots of Christmas office parties and homes decorated with Christmas decorations and police stations and bars and so on and so forth. But it's got a great story, too. It's Dennis Quaid at the height of his popularity and Meg Ryan just before she became popular, and she's really great in it. It's also got Jane Kasmarek, the mom from Malcolm in the Middle, Ronald Neame, who played Johnny Alucard in Dracula A.D. 1972, and it's got a pre-Home Alone Daniel Stern. I have to say, this is my favorite Daniel Stern Christmas movie. I'm also a sucker for a film that takes place over a set period of time, like an afternoon or an evening, and this takes place over a 24-hour period. And you get to go through this adventure with the character and go on this journey with him, and then it's over. And this one's great because Quaid gets to reflect back on his life like Ebenezer Scrooge in A Christmas Carol, except he doesn't have a future. He's a dead man walking, and he always has been. And that's kind of the noir point of the film. But it's really great. I really enjoy it. And this film, like pretty much all the films on this list, needs to be watched at midnight with Christmas tree lights in the corner, in the dark, just sitting there watching it at midnight. Pop it in. Enjoy. Next up, Hammer Pictures Cash on Demand. This is a pre-horror Hammer, and it's a great little flick. It came out on the Mill Creek Hammer box set, and I just watched it recently. It stars Peter Cushing, so you can't go wrong there. And the story in a nutshell is Peter Cushing is this uptight manager of this bank branch, and he has no time for friendship or fraternization with his employees. And one day, a man claiming to be an insurance company detective comes in and says that he's there to audit the bank's security procedures. He gets Cushing alone in his office and then proceeds to tell him that his wife and son have been kidnapped, and if he doesn't help him rob the bank, they're going to be killed. And the story just proceeds from there. It takes place just in the bank offices. It could almost be a play, but it's fantastic. And what's really neat is it's kind of a story of redemption, almost along the lines of A Christmas Carol, because you've got Cushing starting out as sort of this very uptight, unfriendly individual. He only cares about the numbers, pleasing corporate office, so to speak. And then it's neat how his employees eventually rally around to help him, and how his personality changes throughout the course of this film. Even the robber himself at the end has a change of heart and does something decent. So it's a neat little film with actually a happy ending. And out of all the noirs I've shown you so far, this is actually one of the best ones that has the happiest ending. And I really urge you to check it out because it's not well known. And the Hammer box set from Mill Creek is fantastic. There's a lot of great movies on there. I've been digging into them recently. But as it's Christmas time, this is one I would recommend that you watch. Great movie. Christmas is also a great time for ghost stories. I mean, what is A Christmas Carol if not a great ghost story? And the British have a habit of telling ghost stories around Christmas time. And this is a cool little anthology film called Dead of Night. And one of the segments in this film is a really cool ghost story that takes place at Christmas time. This film is mostly known for the ventriloquist dummy segment, but the other segments are just as fun as well. But I do enjoy the ghost story one. You can just watch that one if you want, but I urge you to watch the whole film. Kino Lorber, as usual, put out a great disc. It's got some great supplements, some good commentaries. I urge you, check this out. It's a fun little film. Next up, Peter Straub's Ghost Story. Now, this one doesn't necessarily take place at Christmas, but it does take place in Vermont in the winter. There's lots of snow. It's a spooky ghost story. There's lots of old men sitting around fireplaces and sipping brandy and smoking cigars and regretting their past. Very cool movie. It has a reputation as not being so great, and I didn't enjoy it the first time I saw it, to be honest with you. But each time I watch it, I kind of like it more and more. It just has a cool vibe to it that just sort of gets to me after a while. It's got a cool little cast: Fred Astaire, Melvin Douglas, Douglas Fairbanks Jr., John Houseman, Craig Wasson, and Alice Krige. Obviously, this was, I believe it was her first film. She's fantastic in it. And it does have an eeriness to it, and it's fun to watch in the wintertime around this period because there's lots of snow involved and people in long coats and hats and jackets and, like I said, lots of warm, cozy fireplaces and lots of decaying corpses. Check it out. Like I said, put it on at midnight. Christmas lights on in the corner. Now we're going to get into some scary Santas. And we're going to go with another anthology film here. Amicus's Tales from the Crypt, which has adapted a lot of the EC Comics stories. And this one has a great segment called And All Through the House, which is starring Joan Collins. She murders her husband, and then she hears over the radio that a maniac has escaped from the hospital, dressed in a Santa outfit. And of course, he comes across her home and tries to break in. And it's got a great little twist ending. It's a very famous story. A lot of people know it. I urge you to check it out. It's really fun. The whole movie is fun. And again, Peter Cushing is in it, in a Valentine's one that you can watch at Valentine's Day. So this film works for Valentine's or Christmas. But the All Through the House segment is great. Really awesome. Next up is Christmas Evil. Now, this box makes this film look much worse than it actually is. It's not as terrifying as Santa. It does have a killer Santa, but it's really more of a psychological drama, somewhat along the lines of Taxi Driver. And it's about a guy who, as a kid, sees something traumatic that shakes his foundation in his belief in Santa Claus and Christmas. And he grows up, having issues with this, and his life eventually breaks him down, that he breaks and tries to become Santa Claus himself to bring back the true spirit of Christmas. And of course, a lot of tragedy ensues. It's a really interesting movie, and I think they're trying to market it here to compare it along the lines of Silent Night, Deadly Night, which is okay. That's fine for the slasher genre, but this isn't really a slasher movie. Like I said, it's more of a psychological drama. And it's shot in New York in the early 80s, on location in New York and New Jersey, using a lot of really great New York theater actors. Like my editor, Russell James, said, he said, everybody in the film is really ugly. I prefer to say they're actually real people. They're not Hollywood stars, things like that. And it makes for a really interesting film. It's almost as if Cassavetes made a slasher / psychological Christmas horror film. Like I said before, I'm always a sucker for movies that take place over a set period of time, and this movie takes place over the Christmas period between Thanksgiving and Christmas, but a good portion of the movie takes place on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. And you've got a lot of great Christmas scenes and Christmas decorations. The main character works in a toy factory, and of course, he collects Santa memorabilia and believes all these myths of Santa Claus. And ultimately, at the end of this movie, it's sad, but it's redemptive at the same time. I don't quite know what to make of it. And I only watched this for the first time a couple of nights ago. And I really, really have been thinking about this film a lot. It's a great Christmas movie, not in the sense of like we're celebrating Christmas, but something to contemplate, something to think about. Again, you need to watch this one at midnight. Check it out. I highly recommend it. And I'd be interested if anyone has seen it, if they post in the comments below and let me know what they think of the film. Now, of course, you can't have Christmas without Black Christmas. Recently, I've been getting into a lot of what they call Canucksploitation. Basically, films that were shot up in Canada on the to be a tax shelter for American movie makers, using lots of Canadian locations, Canadian actors, so on and so forth. This is one of the best. This was done by Bob Clark of A Christmas Story fame. Most people know this film. It's disturbing, it's scary, it's creepy, but at the same time, it really gives me the Christmas spirit. I don't know why. It's just the way the house is decorated. Most of the scenes are just shot by candlelight or Christmas lights, which kind of gives you that comforting Christmas feeling in a way. It's got a great cast. You've got Margot Kidder, Olivia Hussey, Keir Dullea, and John Saxon. I mean, you can't go wrong with John Saxon. What's that? You've never heard of the sax? Well, turn this goddamn video off right now. Go out and IMDb him and check out some John Saxon movies. Yeah, this one's good, and it has a really creepy killer who we never find out who the actual killer is, and it has a bummer of an ending. But I really enjoy it, and it'll really put you in the Christmas mood. And again, it's got to be on sometime. You got to watch this somewhere between midnight and 3 a.m. Sticking with our Canucksploitation theme, as well as Killer Santas, we've got The Silent Partner. This is a really underrated movie, and it is fantastic. You've got Elliot Gould, Christopher Plummer, Susanna York, and you've got an early appearance by John Candy in a comedic/dramatic role. Elliot Gould plays this bank teller, and Christopher Plummer is a bank robber. He dresses as Santa Claus, and he robs the bank. Elliot Gould only gives him a portion of the money and keeps the rest for himself. So that night, the bank robber is watching the news, and when they release the amount of money that was stolen, the bank robber knows that Elliot Gould took some of it because he's only gotten a certain amount. And this sort of cat and mouse game happens between the two of them, where they're sort of battling each other for the money. Christopher Plummer can't really blackmail him because he can't say that he stole the money or he'll be taken out. And Elliot Gould, it really turns into at points a slasher film. It's really cool. It's really dark. Christopher Plummer is great in it. And again, it takes place at Christmas time. There's lots of office Christmas parties, Christmas decorations around. It's shot up in Canada, so it always feels cold and snowy. And you've got Christopher Plummer in a Santa outfit. If you're going to watch a Christmas movie, watch this one. This is awesome. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. 10 films to put you somewhat in the Christmas spirit. From everybody here at Dr. Durant's Sanctum, we'd like to wish you and yours a happy holidays. And like we're fond of saying here at the Sanctum, you never know when you might run into us, because the world is my hiding place. So don't forget to leave me milk and cookies, because you never know when I might show up. You forgot the milk and cookies. That's all right. Don't struggle. It only makes it harder. Simply having a wonderful Christmas time.